Hi everyone, my name is Mbalenhle Thembinkosi, and today I'll be unpacking Angela Carter's The Bloody Chamber, focusing on how Carter twists traditional fairy tale tropes into something that is more dark as well as more symbolic. Over here I have my partner,
Thembinkosi, and we want to welcome you to our podcast. The name of our podcast is Chilling with the Academics.
Academics, clock it. All right, so I just want us to take a look at the whole motive of fairy tales, because we often think of fairy tales as, the common phrase, be careful for what you wish for. But then with Carter, she reminds us that we should be careful what we wish for, because the whole scenario of fairy tales, it promises magic, love, the happily ever after, but deep beneath it, it lies danger. Like how the whole castle was romanticized, but in reality within it lied the corpse, the blood, the whole darkness with the imagery of the things placed on the headboard above his head and the lilies, the symbolism of death overall. So with Carter, she subverts the whole scenario of the fairy tale, of the wish fulfillment, as it narrates that instead suggests that it exposes its dangers. Can you just speak on that, on how men utilize women, how they obsess over the whole motive of marriage as a status, as well as a form of escaping from poverty? Can you speak on that?
Oh yes, I would like to speak on that. First of all, you can see that Angela Carter used the character the Marquise. The Marquise is one of those people who had influence in the country, one of the elite, the rich people there. So in the book, we saw that he owns a castle. So if you own a castle, it shows that you are moneyed, right? And then yes. So when you look at this thing, Angela Carter wants to tell us that we still have men outside in the real world who uses their influence, who uses their money to lure women up, so they can be able to abuse them, so they can be able to own them. So, for example, we have blessers, we have big daddies, guys who prey on young children, and then they promise them the fantasy. I'm going to buy you this Mercedes Benz. You're going to stay in the mansion. According to me, when I look at the book, the young girl, the 17-year-old girl, saw the Marquise as her hero. Yes, I was like, oh, this person's going to take me out of poverty. She didn't care about the looks. She didn't care about this guy's character, but she was focusing on the money. That's what she wanted. And then when she got there, that's when she saw that everything has a price to pay. Yeah. That's how men abuse women. That's how women get killed in marriages, because eventually when they come to the marriage without nothing, they are being owned by men. They're being abused because they don't have a voice.
True. She actually mentions at the beginning of the story, she states that her mother married out of love and her father was poor. So looking at her mentioning that, it shows that she was looking at what's the it's a psychological term in literature, that it's a paternal substitute, basically. So let's look at the whole innocence motive of the story, that the heroine, the protagonist, she was innocent, and because of her innocence she was referred as a beautiful one. So basically Carter twists the idea of innocence being beautiful, because when you take a look at Snow White, the witch was not the fairest of them all. Snow White, the witch would stare at the mirror and she'd say, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? But the whole notion behind that, it was not based on Snow White being the most beautiful, but it was based on Snow White being innocent, because she was naive. Beauty was tied to innocence, on that notion. So I see that also in The Bloody Chamber. The heroine's innocence is exactly what attracts the Marquis. It's not exactly the beauty, it's about the innocence. Yes, so hence the reason why you're seeing in most fairy tales older women who do not have a patriarchal figure over their lives, who are not married, who are single, or who are not innocent, are considered witches and evil. Yes, and bad influences. And I think that's where the irony is, because funny enough, it is the mother who kills the Marquis at the end, the evil one. So she describes herself as a tender, delicious thing in the book. Her purity is basically fetishized, making her both desirable and endangered. So basically, innocence becomes the very reason for her entrapment, her downfall, turning the traditional fairy tale motive of the maiden into a Gothic victim. Would you like to maybe emphasize on that, how Carter twists fairy tales?
Oh, yes, I'll like to emphasize on that too. Thank you. But I feel like you've covered everything. So how does Carter emphasize changes fairy tale? If you can watch all those movies, Princess Diana, Shrek, there's that thing of happily ever after. When you get married, you're gonna live a wonderful life with your husband. But then she shows also that in marriage there are also challenges. Each and everything, there's always advantage and disadvantage.
Exactly.
So the reason why she she emphasizes on this is because of most women, they have this fantasy of marriage as their happily ever after, as their escape from poverty, as their reliance on men. Hence, patriarchy will always be dominant because women feel like they won't get anywhere without a man. They won't be able to achieve anything without a man. So Carter changed fantasy to show that yes, even though we have been what's the word that came to my English is depleting out. We've been brainwashed that everything is good when you get into that side. There are no disadvantages, will be just moving nicely. But she shows that there will be challenges, there will be back and forths outside there. That's why she used this thing of the machine and the young lady.
Yes. So I would describe the whole fairy tale motive and the whole marriage scenario as an optical illusion. Because when you take a look at optical illusions, at first glance, for instance, if you're looking at the same shapes, one in front of the other, and you just question yourself as to which one is bigger. The one in the forefront may seem bigger than the other one, but when you place the other one in front of the other one, it may seem bigger than the other one, whereas it is the exact same size. So something at first glance, because the eye is very deceiving, it may seem like that's it, that's what you think, that's the whole idea of the whole thing, whereas when you take a deeper look into it, it's not exactly that. So eyes can deceive you. The whole fairy tale scenario is deceiving. So the whole thing with regards to the isolation in marriage, there's another shocking thingy, because I've been asking myself as to why there's an absence with the Marquis family, because in many cultures, as well as in my culture, you don't marry just the man, but you marry into the entire family. And yet in Carter's tale, there are no in-laws, there's no community, it's just the Marquis in his isolated castle. So that's complete isolation. This symbolizes how the heroine only enters how she enters not a family, but it's just a transactional situation. She knows nothing of the name of the person she's marrying into or the weight of his past, but the marriage becomes a prison, which links to the Gothic trope of isolation, or the isolated heroine in the castle.
Okay,
Do you have anything for me?
Yes, I have everything for that. Oh, yes, I have to ask you a question. So, looking at this current situation that you're facing right now, do you think if the young girl's father was present, she will still be the victim of the Marquis? Because I believe fatherlessness most of the time is the reason why our young sisters become predators too. So do you feel
Praise,
become prey,
I think it's an arguable matter. Because when you take a look at the heroine, she does admit that she married the Marquis not for love, but for what he represented, because she states that I longed for him, and he invited me to join him in his gallery of beautiful women. So her choice is mainly driven by poverty, and you could say the absence of a father, which left her vulnerable to older men, wealth and power. So the Marquis becomes, as we stated, the kind of paternal substitute, as she seeks him in the protection and authority she lacked, but instead she finds domination. But if we take a look at the Roman countess, a secondary character, it's contrasting this whole notion, because she is married, she has a presence, she has a father figure present in her life, her father is alive, and yet she's linked to the Marquis, and she's surprisingly part of his prized collection, showing that the presence of the father figure is not always enough to shield women from the patriarchal desire. So this tension basically reflects a wider truth that in some cultures, such as the Nazareth culture, usually women who are pure, they actually get into marriages mainly for security, financial security, and that is why they utilize that innocence as an advantage. Families who are poor, they utilize their daughter's innocence to get into that marriage in order for them to gain financial security. All right, so innocence is highly prized in families with that regard, but not for the woman's freedom, but also as a form of social and financial security. So a daughter's purity becomes a currency in the same way that Carter shows how innocence itself becomes a dangerous commodity, whether sold for wealth, used for status, or trapped in the illusions of a fairy tale. So, do you have any last words?
No, I don't have. Okay, yes, I do have any last words. I just want to say thank you, Angela Carter. May your soul rest in peace. Your book was educational because we can see the problems we are facing outside in the real world. The Bloody Chamber has managed to open our eyes that patriarchy, we still have the men like McHughes who use patriarchy to bully women, I'll say, to bully women who use their positions to take their dignity away and sexually assault them. So
the Bloody Chamber is, yes, a Gothic tale, but it warns of the dangers of wishing for wealth, love without seeing the cost. So innocence is not a shield, but it's a law that predators are looking for. Okay? So marriage is not always protecting, but can become an entrapment. And wealth, whether in fairy tales or in reality, often dictates who lives in the castle and who doesn't. We thank you for joining us, chilling with the academics.